So I got this bracket tacked up on all the corners and test fitted it one more time, and it fits good. So now I'm just gonna lay down beads on all the sides, and then I'm gonna drill the holes to mount the actual seat and make sure the seat fits on there, and then throw it all in the car, make sure it fits good, and then make one exactly like it for the other side, and then that'll be it. We'll have 2 mounted seats in this car. Sorry, it's kind of dark in here, but I got the bracket completely welded up and bolted to the seat the way that it's going to be. So all I had to do was go get some bolts from Lowe's and get the bolt coming in the bottom and then coming up, and there's a nut right there, and it just fits and the seat's able to slide. So now I'm going to go put it in the car, bolt it down, see how it feels, and if it's all good, I'm going to take it apart and make another one and paint them both. So let's see how it looks. So I'm sitting in my newly mounted seat, test mounted, whatever you want to call it, and it fits great, it looks great, most importantly, it feels great. Dang, it looks a lot better. Yeah, it fits perfectly. There's room for the handle, there's room for the door closed, it doesn't make contact with anything, and the ride height feels right, both for a passenger and driver. So I'm just going to take it off, take the bracket back off of it, and then make one exactly like it, because the dimensions for the driver's side are exactly the same. And then I'm going to paint them both, and I'm going to have mounted seats. So there we go. So I decided, instead of making an exact copy of the mount for that side, on this side I went ahead and made this one on its own the way I made the other one. And it's a good thing I did, because the geometry is just a bit different on this side. Not a whole lot, but just enough. There's a little bit of clearance issue with the transmission tunnel, so I'm combating that with some washers here and there, and then changing the geometry of the bracket here and there, and also took the sledgehammer to the edge of the transmission tunnel and the floorboard a little bit, just to make just enough room to get this where I need it to be. Now it's all looking pretty straight, so I'm going to get it tacked up and make sure that's straight, measure everything, lay some beads down, test fit the seat just the way I did the other one. And one big thing I want to do, and would recommend you guys do if you're doing this, is once you have stuff here and laid out where you think you want it, measure everything and then measure it relative to the steering wheel, because a buddy of mine was doing this and got his in, and when he got done he realized that the seat was kind of over here. And so he's kind of sitting in the car with his head like this. The steering wheel's a little bit to the right, so don't make that mistake. Just measure a bunch of times and cut once. Also, my lifters finally came in, and I've got them soaking in some oil. I guess you're supposed to soak them in oil for a day or two before you put them in, so they're in there soaking. As soon as they're done, I'm going to throw them in, and then I'll go and rent a torque wrench again and put the heads on the engine. The engine bay is nice and cured out, so yeah, ready to start putting the engine back together. Also, I did manage to make a solid lifter so that I can properly check the push rod length. Make sure that it's good. What are you barking at? Also, I did manage to make a solid lifter out of one of the old hydraulic lifters so that I can properly check the push rod clearance. All I did was take it apart and stack some washers inside of it instead of the spring, so now it won't have any give to it. And yeah, we can check that and make sure the push rod length is good. Based off what I've read and researched, the stock length should be good, but it really just depends on the exact way the heads were machined and stuff. So I'm going to double check it and we'll go from there. The lifters are in. I'm taking a break from the seat brackets to go ahead and put the heads on the engine. So I've got the lifters soaking in oil. They've been soaking for a day. So I'm going to clean everything up real good, including the head gasket surface and this top part here where the lifters go. Clean everything up real good, vacuum it one more time, wipe down the cylinder walls with some oil, and then put the lifters in, and then put the heads on with the head gaskets and everything, torque them down properly, and then I'll be able to check for push rod length. And if the stock push rods will work, then I will probably just use them. So yeah, that's the plan for now. Let me get started and see where this takes us. Alright, thanks to my helper here, We got the lifters in, all nice and oiled up, and got the heads on and torqued down to the proper sequence and proper torque spec. So now I'm just gonna start checking the push rod length. I think the stock length may actually work. This is the lash that I got. It's funny that on one side it's lower and the other side it's higher, but I measured with the caliper and it is the acceptable width. So I'm gonna do a little bit of research to make sure that'll work, and if not, then order a checking tool and do it that way. So we'll see, we'll get it figured out, but it just feels good to be making progress on this thing. Got the lower intake manifold washed up, rinsed out, and drying in the sun, ready to go back on the car today, hopefully. So I checked my pattern for push rod length and it's within acceptable sweep, so that's ready to go. I've got all these pieces cleaned up and ready to go. Dog bones and this spider and the push rods. Everything's going back in, and then gonna put the lower intake manifold on along with the new gasket stuff. I need to clean this up a little bit. That way everything will be nice and sealed. I need to order some valve cover gaskets so I can seal everything up here, but until those come in, I'll just set the valve covers on there so I don't have to worry about it. And yeah, so this thing's slowly starting to come together, and now it's about time to start looking at the actual turbo pieces, so pretty excited about that. Alright, so we got everything installed. Everything looks good and went on correctly. Everything torqued down the way that it should, to the proper pattern that you're supposed to install everything. So yeah, overall I'm pretty pleased with it. It seems to be assembled correctly. One last look at the inside. Got the fresh intake manifold gaskets on here. One last look at the inside, and hopefully I never look at it again, because I don't plan on rebuilding this motor ever, so hopefully I don't have to. Gonna let the intake manifold dry completely, the lower intake manifold, and I'm gonna put it on, and then that's gonna be it for that part of the build. Get some valve cover gaskets, put valve covers on, and then I can start on the actual turbo part of this build. So making good progress, and I'm excited. Decided I couldn't let myself put this thing in the car without throwing a quick coat of paint on it. Some engine enamel, got some like sparkly gray here. Make it look pretty good. You throw this on both the lower and upper intake manifold. Just so, you know, I set it on the engine and like this just looked really dirty compared to everything else that was shiny. So I'm just gonna throw some of that on there real quick, make it look nice. Got it all nice and taped and prepped up here. So a few coats of this and I'm gonna call it good. Let it dry and throw it on the engine. So I got the last coat drying on this lower intake manifold. Turned out really nice. I like it. I figured while I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up and paint these valve covers. Not sure what color. I don't have that many engine enamel colors sitting around, either that same gray or a red or a blue, so I'll decide. But in the meantime, they're just drying, and that's drying. The dog's taking a nap, and so I'm going to go back to working on the seat bracket for the driver's side. And like I said before, I've already got it test fitted and tacked up, so now I just need to take it out, lay the beads, and then drill the holes for a seat, make sure everything lines up, and then put it in. And then I'm going to paint both that one and the passenger one that's already done. So yep, that's what I'm working on. So I forgot to video it, but the driver's seat fit perfectly with the bracket that I made. So now I've got the both of them out here, just laying some coats of paint down on there so they don't rust. And once they're done, I'm gonna sit them out to let them cure, and that's gonna be it for today. And the red paint on the valve covers came out really good. I'm real happy with that. I'm letting it cure too, and then I can go throw those on the engine. And here's how she looks with the valve covers just kind of sitting there. I'm just leaving everything like this just so that the inside is pretty much sealed. And now I'm ready to start fitting the turbo stuff, so I'm going to start working on that. I need to find the studs so I can put these valve covers on properly. I also need to order gaskets for them, so for the time being they're just sitting there just to keep crap from getting in the valve train. So yep, pretty good progress, I'd say. I'm pretty happy with it. Got the seat brackets drying out in the yard, so I'm pretty happy with how everything went. excited to start putting the turbo stuff on now. So